we are here to continue to be of service, and I hope you enjoy this high level conversation.
Let's get it.
How you
Hey,
doing?
Randy.
What's going on, Chase? How you doing?
I'm doing real good.
Real good.
Doing real good.
Blessed and highly favored.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sounds like a seasoned saint.
You know, I just feel like this year has been, something to really reflect on. I feel as if I've really learned a lot this year.
Tell me about that.
Dang.
Actually, don't tell me about the highlights. I want you to tell me about like the lows, like, because like social media is full of highlights, but like let's have a real conversation. Like, tell me what you learned, but tell me why you failed. Because that's where the lesson came from.
So, man, okay. I came back from overseas September of 2022, right?
Hmm.
And I felt as if, okay, I got $14,000 in the bank account. I'm feeling like I got to buy a new cash car. That was a mistake offhand because before I deployed, I had a cash car, but I sold it because I didn't want to replace the engine.
Hmm.
So that was off rip, a couple $1,000s out the window. Cool.
Hmm.
I had a plan to say I'm just gonna go and speak, and I'm gonna get paid to speak. The question that we always got to ask ourselves is, why should someone listen to you? And I did not have a solid reason as to why people should listen to me. Right. So it wasn't a mistake, but it was a lesson, because it's like you still need to build up social proof and capital as to why people need to.
Do you though? Like, do you need social proof in order for people? What was Jesus's social proof?
That's a fair point. So I think, but it's either expectation, not expectations. I think it's a matter of what can I then show to people as to why I'm credible. So I think
And
the social proof only adds to that as evidence.
also, the reason why I share that, right, is because two reasons. Number
Hmm.
one, when I first got into business, I remember I went to like this workshop and he was sharing basically how, like, whenever you start something, you are the expert because you're investing time in it. You're investing more time than somebody that's not.
Mm,
So, to his level of degree, you're an expert. However, depending on your integrity level, you're going to continue to chase that expertise, right? So,
hmm.
you're going to never feel good enough,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
Right.
And Chris Gardner, he is the man behind the movie Pursuit of Happiness.
Hmm.
Will Smith talked about it.
Hmm.
He has a book called Start Where You Are.
Right.
And I believe that absolutely you can have evidence, you can have social proof, you can have stuff like this.
Hmm.
And at the same time, it comes from starting where you are. So you say, like, well, why should somebody listen to me? It's because you have something to say.
That is true. And I think, and it goes back to almost like limiting beliefs too, because you're so caught up in what it needs to look like. You're so caught up in what other people have told upon you, instead of realizing that you do have a gift, or you do have something to offer that is of substance.
Yeah.
And I think I got so caught up in like, I don't know how I'm going to market myself. I don't know what it's going to look like. And so because of that, I didn't maximize in that moment, my true potential,
Yeah.
because I came back from overseas and I said, you know what, cool, what am I going to pursue? What is my plan?
Hmm.
And because it was the lack of preparation that led me to feeling like, okay, I'm gonna go back into IT, just because I
Hmm.
know, okay, if I can lead others, I can 130K salary, 150K salary.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I knew, one, that's not gonna fulfill me personally, right? And I was also like, well, if you're willing to take shots, you might as well take them now, because if you're
Absolutely.
not gonna shoot your shot, you're how do you expect to accomplish something greater than what it is you currently are if you're not willing to strive for it?
Absolutely. I agree with
So,
that.
I traveled to Ohio in October of last year, 2022. I was in Ohio for about 2.5 months before I came back to Texas. And in being in Ohio, I was studying, getting certain certifications so that I could get to the bag, so I could get 130, 150K salary. And then, I get the certification, cool, in December. I come back to Houston December 28th, that's of 2022. Then in January, I'm spending majority of the month applying for jobs,
Hmm.
applying for jobs, applying for jobs, applying for jobs. And I'm like, this feels like it's almost not compounding at the extent of what maybe anything else
Hmm.
could.
Hmm.
And I was like, fine, let me see what else I can do to make money. And what happens is, I believe when you may feel or believe you're in a state of desperation, you start pursuing certain things that may not be serving you at your highest level. And I'm saying this because I had an opportunity to become a life insurance agent. Nothing wrong with life insurance, because I do have life insurance policies. But here's the thing, is that when you're a licensed agent, it's as if you're starting a new business,
Yeah.
knowing good and well I have my real estate license.
Hmm.
So it's, yes, maximize your skills and how you're able to make money, but now it goes back to the when billionaires are telling you to focus. So if
Yeah.
a billionaire tells you to focus, why are you so distracted? So I was making notes. So it was like, and when I'm telling you about the struggle, so that the next person who's 18, 19 years old doesn't do what I did, for the first 6 months of 2023, I was distracted heavy.
Yeah.
Even when I decided to go full time real estate, that truly wasn't full time
Yeah.
because I had a commercial mentor pour into me for 30 minutes. He said, "How many hours do you spend per day in real estate?
Yeah.
How many deals do you have under contract right now?"
Yeah.
All
I
right.
I think that's the thing because in the moment of it, I don't think you believe like you were distracted, right? I think sometimes we look
Very
at
true.
distraction like, oh, I'm BSing for lack of better
Mm-hmm.
words, like I'm gallivanting, I'm
Mm-hmm.
traveling. Like
Mm-hmm.
distraction can still look like focus.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is because if we just like run back what you said, it's like, okay, you were in and you were going to pursue IT.
Mm-hmm.
So you were taking all of these certifications.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody put you onto an opportunity in life insurance. You
Mm-hmm.
also have been put onto an opportunity in real estate licensing, right? And so it's not that what you were doing looked like distractions. They looked like a plan,
Just
right? And
yeah.
yet I'm often reminded, and this is where multitasking becomes a problem because you're not focused on one thing, so you're failing in everything.
Mm.
And a mentor once told me, it's like, you can do everything, right? But the question then becomes like, am I getting the return that I'm
Mm-hmm.
expecting? And so
Mm-hmm.
now you kind of have all these burners, these pots out there, but nothing's manifesting the way that you want it to because you've
Exactly.
got a divided focus, even though you're focused, because you're like, your focus is getting the bag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like nothing that you said sounded like wasting time.
It added to my level of conviction for what it is that I'm striving for. Because, and I'm grateful though too for the family that I do have in my life. Because my uncle asked me, he said, "Okay, you get your insurance license, but do you actually plan on owning your own insurance company?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No." He was like, "Okay, so then why don't you just go and do real estate?"
And I think that's the thing. It's like when you have all of these opportunities, especially now, because
Hmm.
there's just so
There's
much to do.
so many different ways to
There's
make
so
money.
much to do.
Hmm.
Like if you go on social media, it's like
Hmm.
50 different people in 3 swipes telling you what you need to do now,
Right.
right? And what you said is real. Like, what is your end game? I always say start how you intend to finish. If you don't
Yeah.
intend on doing this or having a brokerage company or any of those things, you kind of just wasting time.
Very true. And I think it's all about leverage. Like anytime you talk to a millionaire, they're talking about leverage, they're talking about time, they're talking about focus, input and output. Because at some point in time you realize, okay, what type of life do you want to live? And then what is required for me to get there?
Hmm.
And oftentimes, depending on how much money you're talking about, it maybe does a team is included.
And so January, you're applying to jobs. You're like, I'm waiting because we talked about this because I even had a moment where I was like, man, look, let me just get a job, right? And it was like 3 months of
You're just going back and
wasting
forth.
my time.
You're just going back and forth because it's like you're submitting an offer, your resume, and then it really depends on if you also do have other opportunities available for you. Because the thing is that you're sitting there, you're applying for the job. Because I know Glassdoor, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, you're just sitting there, click, 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 and you're like, where? Okay, how many people are about to interview me? All right, I'm ready. Interview me, call me, please. And then they don't call you. Then you're sitting there like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
Because if I put in some of the work, I apply for the job. So
I
what
think
happens now?
the hardest part about applying for jobs, and no knock to jobs because
For
they
sure,
exist, right?
for
Yeah.
sure.
You talked about like a cost switch at some point. You were like,
Opportunity
okay, man,
cost, yeah.
I can invest this time. And for that brief period where I was applying for a job and I was going on these interviews, multiple interviews, same person, like the same person that you met with last week, and it didn't pan out. And I looked up and I was like, this was a complete waste of
I
3 months.
gained, because my thing was, okay, so I got licensed in life insurance to be a life insurance agent in February. So in February, I got licensed.
Hmm.
Then in March, I was like, man, I still need money. Like I was like, I need money. So I still was doing real estate and I was still putting myself out there, but it was like, okay, what other opportunity can I do? I was learning about how people are able to pay off their debt faster. That was
Hmm.
another opportunity. But mind you, I'm selling once again someone else's product.
Hmm.
And that was something that really dawned on me that if you're not going to be selling your own product, how can you keep saying you want to become wealthy? You're not selling your own product.
Absolutely.
And I was getting frustrated because it was like every single day I'm tick like the clock is ticking, and it's not a matter of impatience, but it's a matter of I keep making decisions that are not serving me at the highest level.
And then I think with that, you're also confusing your audience,
What do
right?
you sell?
Because
What do you do?
now
Yeah.
around this time, you're like in March now. This is when you and I, now, granted, we've known each other for about 5 years,
Hmm.
4 years, maybe
Hmm.
somewhere along that line.
Hmm.
And so now this is starting to make sense when we came back, because you let me know you was coming back to Houston, and how I remember I had a conversation with you like, what's going on?
I do remember that. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? What do you want to what do you want to be in real estate?
Yeah,
And I was still almost like, well, I'll go back to my old brokerage. And in doing that, it was kind of like you mentioned to me when, because if I fast forward, you said if you're still thinking about commission splits, you're thinking too small.
mm-hmm.
And that really dawned on me because I was like, okay, I really do have like, things that I need to do.
Yeah,
So if we're going on a timeline, so then in April, I turned 23,
mm-hmm.
right? And I wasn't as distracted, but I was still like, I'm gonna go make a lot of content. And it's not to say that content doesn't work, but I do think in real estate, you need to focus on the lead generation tactics that'll net you the most money.
Absolutely. Like, and I think that's a point too, right? I think sometimes, like, there's valuable content, like there's solid conversations, that if you listen long enough, you're going to be able to walk around
Mm-hmm.
or walk away with some tools.
Of course.
And also, there's a lot of content that's just noise, right?
Oh,
It's
100%.
it's just like, hey, they told me I should be here on social media, so here I am. Let's talk about frogs. And
And some people may get to the bag like that, but I think it helps for maybe branding, but I also think it's like, I think about how we're able to make $1 million without posting a single piece of content.
yeah,
And it's not to say that content or branding is not important. It's to say that sometimes the game could be that you just run ads extremely well and you make money, or you
absolutely,
cold call greater than anybody else in your area and you make money.
yeah.
It just depends on what works best for you.
And it's the consistency, right? Because anything you do over time, time after time over task over time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter what you choose, time over task over time.
Right.
And I think what's also interesting is that, and no matter what it is that you do, right? It's not that it's not an opportunity to be successful, whether it's applying for jobs or doing IT, getting your certifications, getting your licensings, all
Right.
that stuff. But if you're not going to stick in it long enough, then it will be a waste of time.
For sure. And I think, and it all goes back to how you choose to use them. Because I have the IT certifications that, and it's the biggest thing is like, man, you don't want to waste them. But it's like, okay, even if I go right now and say I'll go back to IT, it's like, what happens next?
Hmm.
What happens next? I get consistent income. Yes. Granted, life be life, and so that would be beneficial, but it's also like, how do you expect to still be shooting your shots on that if you just ate shit, for lack of a better terms? You just ate it long enough and said, I'm willing to eat the suffering long enough and watch your efforts compound at a
And that's no
very high
matter
level.
what you do. No matter what you do,
You're gonna
that
pay the
question, you're gonna have to ask yourself that question.
you're gonna pay the price regardless.
Yeah, because I think even in real estate, like a big myth, a big misconception is like, oh, I'm gonna get my real estate license and boom, taking big checks, right? Like,
Hmm.
you watch all these shows on television, it's like that's gonna be me, and then people get in the industry, it's like, man, this is hard.
Yeah, there's some work put
Like,
in.
what do you mean? I posted 7 reels. Why am I not closing deals? And it's
Hmm.
because there's just so much to it that
Hmm.
people don't see.
Hmm.
And if you're not willing or you're not able to go through that struggle,
Hmm.
and I almost don't think the struggle ever ends. It just looks
It
different.
just looks different, but I think it's like, I'd rather continue to choose my battles.
Hmm.
And so that's why, so to kind of finish that up as far as for the year, right? It was that May was kind of like the Kickstarter, and then I actually, I'm going to certain events, meeting certain people, and then June got into like podcasting and making certain videos in higher quality, which helps. But it's like, what am I still talking about? So I'm talking
Hmm.
about things that are not related to business or related to getting more customers or clients. Then
Yeah,
I'm it's a net positive for society.
yeah.
It's a net negative in my bank account. It's and I don't mean it like that, but it's like I see why when people say go become wealthy and then look to help others. I don't think they're saying it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think.
Bro, like, that is serious. Like, we have got to. It may sound crazy, but you need to be profitable before you are philanthropic. Like, it just is, period. Like,
Mhm.
I this is just me where I'm at. right? You say you're 23, I'm 41. This is me today. Is that you can serve yourself into poverty. Like I'm just being like honest
Man.
because it's like I think a lot of times we have big hearts. We like want to help everybody
Hmm.
win. And it's just like on the plane, you got to put your own mask on first.
Exactly.
And that is just so powerful because I think a lot of times we Gary Keller once said,
Mhm.
sometimes you could be losing so slow that you think you're winning.
I remember, and I think the January, because I was still going to military drill. This year has been something else. I was still doing military drills all the way up to like June. So
Yeah.
one weekend out the month, I'd have to go drive 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm over here like, man, yesterday was a long day. I gotta wake up at, or I'm literally like finishing up a networking event, and I'm driving over to Killeen,
Yeah.
3 hour drive, 2 hours and 45 minutes guaranteed, so that I'll be there in the morning to
Yeah.
report at like 6:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning.
And good news is I mean, you have the time, you have energy, but like, how is that sustainable?
The
Right?
time, the
Like,
energy. I'm over
I'm,
here
I'm just,
suffering,
I'm just
but you see
saying,
what I'm saying? Like I'm going through it
I
to
don't have the time. You already know I'm not gonna try. I'm not. If I do a networking event, that's what I'm doing that night, and then in the morning I can try to collate. We're not doing no networking event, then driving 3 hours. We're
No,
not
it's
doing
a
that.
price to pay, because like I knew I was like, I'm gonna start this drive, I'm gonna get there halfway, and then I'm gonna end up taking a nap
Yeah.
because I'm literally exhausted. So, and that's also something I realized in like that May June time frame. I'm like, it's almost as if I'm working myself to exhaustion
Yeah.
for what?
For
Like
what?
actually asking myself, what am I doing this for? And is it justifiable?
Yeah.
And I really had to sit in that, because people would be like, man, why don't you stay in the military? Why? It's not that I don't love the military. I genuinely enjoy the charisma, the relationships you build, the way you're required to an extent to stay
Hmm.
physically active, the camaraderie. I love every single aspect of the military in that regard.
Yeah.
But I had to realize, either I choose to stay in the military and fulfill this obligation, or I feel as if, or I believe there's an obligation I must fulfill to myself.
Because what's not being discussed is the burnout that comes along with that type of focus, right? And I think that a lot of times, and that's why hustle culture can be so toxic, and grind and never quit can be so toxic because absolutely, like, it's not about you not being motivated, it's not even about you not being passionate or
Hmm.
focused,
Hmm.
but when you start putting that type of toll on your body, and then it's like, okay, so long game, will you be sustainable?
Right.
Right? Because when you say like, what am I doing this all for, like, yeah, it looks good for social media, but ain't nobody making reels in hospital beds. You think?
On top of that, too, right, is that the burnout may not have came with me in a hospital bed, but the burnout may come with me. I'm driving behind the wheel and I'm physically exhausted. My mind be like, we got some potential, but your body's like, bro, I'm shutting down. I'm
Absolutely.
shutting down. I was forced to learn why rest is important. Not because I
Absolutely.
wanted to, because I needed to,
Yeah.
because my life was on the line.
And I remember a period that happened to me. And I was about your age. I got my license when I was 27. So, I had a lot of energy. I was doing
Yeah.
a lot of things. I
Hmm.
was, you call me out, call me day, noon, night, call me out, all that stuff, right? And I remember just one day I just crashed physically, mentally, just crashed.
Hmm.
I ended up in the hospital, and every client I was working with left.
Man, yeah, that's different.
And I was mandated in the hospital for 7 days. I couldn't. They wouldn't give me electronics. They wouldn't give me anything. They were like, "You must rest." I was on mandatory rest. And when I walked out of that, I was like, one, I was mad because I lost a week, right? Because I'm still like
Hmm.
in like busy mode. I'm like,
Hmm.
gosh, this is so unproductive. Like I'm
Yeah.
fine. Like give me, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And doctor is just like, nah, nah. And I spent like the first 3 days just mad trying to figure out a way around the
Hmm.
doctor's orders. And then when I came out, and like I said, you see clients and they move on or they work with somebody else because you're not available. It really just had me put it in perspective, like, what am I doing? Like really?
Hmm.
Like I'm putting my life in danger and
Hmm.
jeopardy for what?
And I think like it goes to the reason why this year was so impactful for me is because 5 years ago 2 days ago on the 19th. On the 19th of December in 2018 was the first day that I came to Houston, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that makes 5 years. My uncle asked me when I landed in Houston and I went to his home, he said, "What's your 5 year plan?" Mind you, I haven't seen him in years.
Mm-hmm.
I physically have not seen him in years.
Mm-hmm.
I sit down, first 30 minutes of me sitting down, eating food that his wife prepared. I'm over here chomping on the food, and he's like, "What's your 5 year plan?"
Man,
I wrote down motivational speaking.
say,
I wrote down motivational speaking. He said, "Okay, how do you plan on accomplishing that?"
yeah,
The goal was not the issue, but it was my plan to actually get there.
yeah,
And how solid was it, or what was I in control of to accomplish my goal?
mm-hmm.
So because of that, the lack of clarity would then led me to, just, oh, I'm gonna go to college. Oh, I'll get my real estate license. Oh, I'll go do this. And it's not to say those things did not serve me, but it's to say that I do believe how much further would I have been if I had a concrete plan and I
Absolutely.
just followed the plan.
It's simple. Like they say, success is simple, not easy. And a lot of times it's almost cliche when people say, "Well, what do you want to be in 5 years?" And people say, "Oh, whatever they say."
Mhm.
But like putting a paper to pen is a serious. You talk about manifesting things. It's not hocus pocus. My
Mhm.
mom used to say, God is not no mystery God. He ain't
Mhm.
no spook and he ain't no goblin.
Mhm.
Right? He's a
Mhm.
he's a God of math and science, is what she would tell us.
Mhm.
And so basically what she would tell us is like, it is a plan.
Mhm.
So wherever you want to be in 5 years, yeah, you can get there, but you got to know what that looks like specifically so you can bring it into the now. We talk about it a lot, like bringing your future into the present.
Yes.
And what do those activities look like
Yes.
today? We used to have a lot of classes with young people
Yes.
talking about like, okay, I remember one time I was having a class and man, the kid was just bright and he had this vision of being a fashion
Mhm.
mogul,
Mhm.
basically, right? Worldwide, billion
Mhm.
dollars. So we worked it backwards. And by the time he left the room, I said, "What's the one thing that you need to do? You need to go to the fabric store
Yes.
and get some fabric
Yes.
so you can start." You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't start out there. Like sometimes the thing that you need to do is as simple as going to the fabric store
Wow.
if you want to be a world class designer. But a
Mhm.
lot of times I think like we get caught up in the vision and the manifestation and all, and we just like sit, and like chant hymns or something like that. And
No,
it's
I had
like,
to learn too. It's not about the affirmations. It's about the actions that you take to then become all that you can be.
yes, absolutely. So it's like getting really clear. I love like you said that. Like, and props to your uncle because I think sometimes those are the hard conversations, right? Because no lie, sometimes we're in a society. It's hard to tell people
The truth,
the truth.
the God honest truth.
People,
Because, and he's done it multiple times. And that's why I reached a point in my life. It's like, it's either you listen and lock in or you will stay the same.
yeah,
It's either you seek guidance, you seek counsel, and you do better, be better, or else you will stay the same.
being humble enough to say like,
I need to
right.
change
Sometimes you don't even need to say anything. Sometimes you just need to like listen.
to yourself.
Answer
Because
the
you,
people that's
cause,
telling you what you need to do,
because
right?
on
Because
top of
he's
that
done it
too,
before.
he's done it before. And he did it multiple times, but I didn't know what it looked like. So
Yeah,
it goes back to information. I was that ignorant that you're
yeah,
giving me game, but because I just do not know what to do,
yeah,
I don't know what to do with the game.
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know. And
Yes.
because I did not know, I paid the ignorance debt in time. So when I say I'm moving with a sense of urgency or I'm pulling my future into the present, it's because I wasn't doing that over the last 5 years.
Hmm.
But the last 5 years were foundational so that I'm able to move with such intent now.
Yeah,
So the reason why I'm so big on the next 5 years will not look like the last is
yeah.
because all I need to do is change my actions or improve my actions that I'm currently taking to then be better than what I currently am.
It's simple. It's simple. It's not easy,
That's
but you
fine.
know,
You
but you
right.
know.
So then, so to the point of June, July, August, September, October, November, December. We had our conversation towards the end of August. You
Hmm.
look me dead in my face and say, because the crazy thing is, a week before I met you, like personally, and we met, I said, Lord, let me tell you something. I need, I need wisdom. Because I saw a YouTube short. I think, he was saying that, well, the one thing that Solomon prayed for was wisdom.
Hmm.
And so I said, if that's the one thing he prayed for wisdom and got wealthy, that's what I need to pray for. So I
Amen.
sat down and I said, Lord, I need wisdom. That's all I need is wisdom.
Yeah.
Then a week later, you texted me, said, come right here. Come to this event. Come to this place. I said, you know what? No problem. I said, I'm gonna be late though, just because I was actively like at where is it at parks? It was some it was a water. I was at a water park.
Yeah.
When I saw that text, I was at a water park and you said pull up here. I was like, I'm gonna be late, but you said still pull up. Anyway, I said, okay, cool. I'll be there. And if I say I'm gonna show up, I'll show up. I get there, mind you, the first hour, because I was talking to the security guard and I didn't know there was a back patio anyway, so I was really late. I was there for an entire hour, but didn't know there was a back spot. I'm giving all this as context so you can really understand just how transparent life can really be, right? And you looked me dead in my face, say, how's real estate? That's all you need to ask me. I was like, I'm about to close on like a lease. That's a couple $100 net. And you said, you know, where is it at? Where you're currently at? What are they offering you? What are they offering you? I said, well, it's the splits. It's the splits. Because in real estate, more than likely, depending on where you go, you either pay a fee or you're gonna pay a split to somebody, right? Depending on the state that you're in. Now, you said if you're still thinking about splits, you're thinking too small.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about your commission splits, you're thinking too small.
Absolutely.
And you said that, and that mind you, that's the end of August, right? Then you said, you know what? Meet me here tomorrow morning. I said, all right, I had no plans on meeting you anywhere tomorrow morning. But now that you've presented this to me,
you just gotta tell people where you need them to be.
And they'll show up. They'll either show up because they want it or they won't. So you know what? I'm giving you guys this as context to understand that it took me 5 years to really get clarity and understanding of what I need to do. I met with you that morning, and the fact that I'm even in the room, I felt so blessed and honored because if I did not show up that night before, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be there that morning. Point blank, period. Now, I had to make a decision of who do I want to collaborate with at the highest level so that I have the capacity to then grow into what my future self requires. And so I always tell you that I thank you for that because you didn't have to.
Yeah.
You could have let me lie where I was at. And the thing is that maybe I would have got there, maybe I wouldn't have. Or maybe I probably would have got there, it would have just taken me longer.
And I think that's the thing, right? I think when you talk about collaboration, it's not about collaboration has nothing to do with competency. It's not that you can't do it. It's just, is this the best way for you to move forward? I remember my mom, she was served in the Peace Corps for a bit. She came back home one day and called her and she was like, oh, I need to cut the trees or something. She's talking about that. I said, Mom, you're past your tree cutting days. It's somebody to do that, And I was just saying that because what you look like,
Right.
you know what
No,
I'm saying?
cutting
Like
trees.
outside cutting trees. It's not that she couldn't do it. It's just that at some point, your time is more valuable. Your health is more valuable than you going outside and trying to do this task.
And
And
it
I think in collaboration, it's the same way. It's not that you can't do it. It's not that I can't get on Google and watch 12 YouTube videos on how to do this and read 40 books on how to do this thing. But then the question becomes like, who do I know that knows this at a higher level that can get this done?
Because that's what I needed. Like a lot of people may look at me and be like, man, you're so ambitious. I'm like, let me tell you something. If you have all this ambition and you have no guidance or where you're going to stare it at, I stayed pursuing, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. I had to get to the point where I'd rather choose to turn down opportunities for the vehicle that I'm currently in. And I'd rather see it through and be like, all right, this didn't work, than for me to just be one toe in, one toe out, instead of actually jumping in and being like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think I always think back and I remember because I had to kind of the same, I didn't have the same journey, but I had that same crossroads, right? Uh, before I'm at the brokerage I was at now, I was at a smaller boutique brokerage, and it's cool, but I didn't have the support. I had tools, I had training, I had the network. Just didn't have what I needed to grow the way that I wanted to. I was like, man, the type of people that I want to work with, if I don't know what I'm talking about, they're gonna sue me. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no, no. I think that
So
that's real.
I had this present son of mind, like I have to go where they're gonna help me know what I'm talking about
Right.
because we live in a litigious world. People are quick to want to find a reason.
Of course, not to work with you, to sue you, to get the better end of the
Yeah.
stick, whatever that looks like. It's just
Because
like,
some people, that's they plan to on how they want to get the bag
oh,
is
for
to sue
sure.
you.
It's to sue
They
you.
just waiting. They just wait for a money for you to mess up.
Mess up, please. I dare you.
And I remember I was like interviewing, and then my mom looked at me. She said, "What's 100% of zero?"
Man, man,
Mhm.
it's still zero. Now, and
Still
and it
zero.
goes back to the point of when we're in that room at the end of August talking about there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Oh, for sure.
Because everybody wants to be a leader, but it's like not only have you maybe earned that right, but what have you done to then say that you are a leader?
I
It's not
think
about
that
being a
is
boss. It's
huge.
about who are you learning from so that then at some point in time when you do go off on your own or you build a business big enough to then carry the weight of how doesn't matter how many people are in the team.
Someone once told me, they say, if your coach has a coach, why don't you have a coach? If your coach does not have a coach, why are you following them?
Mm,
Right? Because everybody needs wisdom.
mhm.
And I think when you say that, like chiefs and Indians, I think that's a big problem right now, is because everyone just
I could
wants
do
to
it on
be
my
in the
own.
front.
I
Like,
could do it on my own.
I can do it on my own. I'm not gonna give away money for that. What I need that for? This, that, and another. And it's like, cool, you on your own and you broke because you cannot focus on what you need to do. It's the 80-20 rule. You can't focus
Yes.
on the 20% that you need to
That's
focus
gonna
on.
make the 80%.
That'll give you the 80% of the results because you are in the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
I used to bartend before I got into real
Mm-hmm.
estate. When you see a person in the weeds, you can tell a person that's in the weeds. They all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything they got slammed in their tables. Like people need drinks. She ain't got her flies. It's just chaos. A lot of people run their business like that. A lot of people run their life like that.
Mm.
They just constantly living in their weeds and they don't pull themselves up long enough to say, man, this is not working.
Constantly living in chaos.
They're living in chaos and they've gotten so comfortable with it. Like that, so you talk about people always love to talk about trauma. Trauma is just conditioned chaos that you've gotten comfortable with.
Say that
That's
again.
it.
Say that.
That's it.
Write that down.
Trauma
Write that down. Say that
trauma
again.
is conditioned chaos that you have gotten comfortable with. Because at some point you learn this is normal. This is
Man,
normal. This is how I know I'm productive.
nah, that's crazy.
If it ain't wild, it ain't right.
Wow.
And then you go and then you look at some of these other cultures and how they do business. They're on golf courses.
Oh,
They're
don't worry
they're
about
on
it. I own
yachts.
the land, and then don't worry about it. We built a business on the land. Don't worry about it. Let me go get more of my people to come run the businesses that we bought on our land.
On our
And
land.
then you sitting there like, man, can we come together for one deal, please? Just one deal, please, please.
And I think when you talk about collaboration, you talk about collaboration only. I'm tempted to say there is no generational wealth without collaboration. I don't understand how it's supposed to work. This is why this sometimes these catchphrases don't make sense to me because it's like, okay, cool, we talking about generational wealth and legacies, but we don't even get along from like a sexist point of view. We're fighting with each other. We
Hmm.
don't work together because you want the whole bag by yourself.
Hmm.
And then it's like, so how is this sustainable?
Hmm.
How can you have a generational legacy by yourself? It's an oxymoron.
And I think it just it could all be so simple. It could
But
be
you
all so
rather
simple.
make it hard.
For what reason though, right? Like what is that? Why? Like it's really one of those things that we really ask ourselves, why are we so fixated on not collaborating at the highest level?
Because we haven't seen it work.
Because we haven't seen it work.
So that goes back to who you surround yourself matters.
Right.
So
Right.
if your environment is constantly talking about how,
This person did me wrong.
yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of like how people, you can't trust them, and how people ain't worth nothing, and
Hmm.
oh yeah, this that just whatever you see,
Hmm.
you that needs to be a flag to you.
Hmm.
Because why am I surrounded by so many people that have so many people in their life that they're constantly canceling and cutting off? Of course you
Right.
can't collaborate in something like that. Your environment is toxic.
Hmm.
So it's not until you make a conscious decision and say, look, I'm going to step away from anything that does not look like what my future is going to be.
Right.
And it's When we talked about goal setting, we talked about starting small.
Mm-hmm.
It really is that small. You know what I'm saying? You got to pay attention to what people say. Like if you hang out with three people and they always talking about
Something negative.
whatever negative thing they're talking about,
Mm-hmm. Or
it's
their
like,
experiences that did not serve them. I think about a lot of times a quote that I always heard when I was younger was that show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
mm-hmm,
And really honor that saying. Because it's like you could say I'm going after the bag, and then everyone else in your circle would say, where are we going at? Where are we going this Friday, this Saturday?
yeah,
And I think there's nothing wrong with going to the club and saying this is how you want to enjoy your life. But I think it's when we become contradictory in what it is that we actually desire and the level of work we're putting in.
yeah.
And so that's why it's less about talking, it's more about action.
And I think it's about really like getting clear on like, so what is friendship then? Because
Mm. What is friendship?
again, because a lot it's oxymorons everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You got a world full of people saying no new friends, and then you got, you know, taglines saying show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have new friends, then you don't have a future.
Right. And I think it depends as far as the context too for that person's life, that when are they saying no new friends? Have they gotten to the point where it's like I don't need any new friends because
Yeah,
everybody else who helped me build this empire are coming along for the ride and then some,
yeah,
because
yeah.
they were with me from the very beginning.
No, but at some point you always stay collaborating,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So even if, okay, so if 2023, I'm like, man, I'm solid on my friends. My friends are great. I love, trust, and respect my friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, but even as a collective, we still got to get to the next level. So at some point, we still gonna need new friends,
Right.
because if you're praying for your territory to enlarge,
Mm. You're still gonna need great
you're
people
gonna
in
still need people. You're gonna need people to help you till the land. So you gotta constantly. It's just okay. So what does that look like? What are the qualities that I'm look like? Just like you said, what are the characteristics of a leader that I'm willing to follow?
Mhm.
What are the correct characteristics of a friend?
And I think too, like, how much value are they also pouring into my life?
Yeah, for sure.
Because the thing is that even for like, I'm mind you, I'm not married. I don't have any kids. But I think it's also like when we think about relationships, whether it's platonic or romantic, we're like, you know what? I'm gonna stay with this person until
Absolutely.
I'm gonna help them become something that they never had an aspiration of becoming.
You know, I got a group of friends. I remember a while ago, a couple years ago, maybe even a decade. There's this movie out. It's called The 40-Year-Old Version. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the name movie. And anyways, in the movie, he's getting ready to get married, and he has no friends. Like he doesn't have friends to
Mm-hmm.
have a a wedding
Yeah.
party,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doesn't have friends to have a best man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching that movie, and I'm like, I want to be like that. And so I remember writing on a vision board, I have the best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a decision that, you know what, I'm going to invest in this group.
Right.
I'm going to invest. It was the people that I was friends with at that time. And I just made a decision. I was like, I'm going to invest in this group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let them go
Right.
because and it was selfish on my end. I just was like, I don't want to get married and I had nobody to invite to my wedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that literally was just the simple truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
And in this decade, like there have been moments where I've been like, man, but because of that commitment to myself, I've persevered with this specific group. And I've watched how over time it's helped me grow because it reveals to yourself. And I think when you talk about partnership, platonic relationship, whatever, it is so that way you have a healthy mirror, right?
Mm.
Friendships, relationships, they are mirrors. So you know, a lot of
Right.
us we say we're healed, and it's like you're not healed, you're just isolated.
Mm. You're not healed. You're just isolated.
You're not healed. You're just isolated. That's why nothing bothers you anymore. You don't allow it to. You're sitting in solitary confinement voluntarily.
And then what does that produce? What do you think that may produce?
It produces a lot of toxic euphemisms, right? So then, and I just talk from the perspective of things I see on social media.
Right.
And at the end of the year, it just seems so dark and
Mm-hmm.
gloomy and
Mm-hmm.
lonely and like, yeah, going 2024. I ain't talking to nobody. I ain't helping nobody. I ain't
Mm-hmm.
doing this. Don't invite me. Don't call me. And then it's like, okay, so if you say that every year, then something has to be wrong with the plan that you work in.
Right.
That,
Right.
right? And so that's why I say, and it's something that I even had to challenge myself on. Like, are you languaging your life? You say like you no new friends, and then you're upset when you have no friends.
Right.
You say check on your strong friends. I can't check on my strong friend because you said you didn't want new friends.
Mm-hmm.
You said don't call me. I don't like talk on the phone.
Yeah. I think, and it goes back to the point of like setting healthy boundaries too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you also understand that this is the life that I want to live,
Yeah.
is the current friend group that I have actually willing to go that distance? Because
Yeah.
it's not going to be easy.
And I think that's why it's like it's not just about the life you want to have. It's like what does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it
Mm-hmm.
sound like? Where are you?
Mm-hmm.
Who's with you? Like that's really what we're talking about when we say a life by design. It's
Mm.
not just going on trips and having expensive things. Like I think we have to be cautious about the cliche things that fade.
Right.
Right? I remember I told somebody once, money is energy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I cannot have it today and tomorrow I could literally
Boom, boom, boom. Just deal after deal after deal. Just life changed overnight.
life literally can change overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not just a movie plot.
It's
it
real life.
it literally is. And so I try not to get too caught up in what bank accounts say or what your money says because it's just energy you know
For real.
and so but the things that don't happen overnight, like I say, those relationships that you have to invest in, people that we have it all the time. There are plenty of times where I'm just kind of like, no, I don't like
Mm-hmm.
it.
Or I'm not going to continue to put up with this. Or and I think over time, all of it then comes to light almost.
Hmm.
Like it's like, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I'm not doing? How do I need to do it better? Like, in actually assessing what needs to be done.
I think they said, I think those are the three questions to ask yourself at the end of the year. What am I doing that I need to stop doing? What am I doing that I need to continue doing? And what am I not doing that I need to start doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how you should go into every year. Because a lot of times it's a lot of noise, it's a lot of distraction,
Mm-hmm.
right? So okay, like we talk about like what was our story. So this time last year, I was evaluating all the things that I was involved in. I told you, I said, look, I'm at a place in my life where you know profitability needs to come before philanthropy. I can say that
Mm-hmm.
because I had a year where I was giving so much of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was serving on every possible thing that you could serve. I was
Right.
volunteering for every possible thing that you could volunteer
Mm-hmm.
for. It's not that that was negative, but then I'd look up and my bank account be negative, and I'd be like, okay,
I'm telling you
Jesus.
that net negative, because you like, I'm doing so much for other people, and it's like I'm not gonna expect them to return the favor, but or however, it's like, well, this was a choice that I made,
Yeah.
and so it's like I want to help everyone, but
It's
it's like,
counterbalancing
yeah,
your choices, right? It's
mm-hmm,
not about going to the extreme on
mm-hmm,
one end or the other,
mm-hmm,
but it is about being able to say, okay, let me put my own mask on first. And ironically, as you were praying for wisdom, I was praying for help. I was praying for a successor. I was like, God, I can't keep doing this. I was like, you know, there are things that are changing, that were going on in my own life that I was like, I need help.
mm-hmm,
And I was like, I was like, look, look, God. I was like,
mm-hmm,
look, I really got intentional. And I think that's when I was able to have those conversations with you about Chiefs and Indians and things like that, because somebody is building something for you.
mm-hmm,
And I think the hardest thing is when you build this thing for people, when you build this thing with community in mind, and the community says, nah, I got it, I'm gonna do it yourself. But you've been through it and you know like what they have up against you. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go through that. You don't have to, Jay-Z has a lyric. He's like, my only job is to cut your time in half.
mm, mm. It goes back to the quote that we when we're on the call with Kate with Keller Williams,
Mm-hmm.
and Jason specifically said, you're going to spend time or you're going to spend money,
Yeah.
and you will end up using whichever one you value the least.
Mm.
Right?
So
You're
what do
either
you
gonna
value, time or money?
me personally.
No.
Well, me personally, I value my time more than I value, because the thing is, if you said money is a tool, money is energy. So that means that I'm gonna value my time more than I value the concept of money, only because I know I'm capable of getting more money. But that means I
That's true.
increase my skill set, I will make more money.
I remember I was at a wealth building event and we were talking about investing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, great course, just investing at
Mm-hmm.
a high level.
Mm-hmm.
The theme for the weekend, the
Mm-hmm.
event, this class is 50 million or bust, like building your net worth up to 50 million.
That's different.
That is the wildly audacious goal.
Right.
And so you're thinking you're gonna go into this class and they're gonna be giving you gym and game on how to do investing.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I want you to pull out your calendar. He said, I want you to take your age and subtract 90.
Okay.
Okay, 50. He was like, 50 summers,
So you
50 Christmases,
mm,
50 Valentine's Days, 50 weekends. He said, now do that with your parents. Take their age and subtract it from 90 because that's the average on how most people live.
mm-hmm.
He said, you got 30 summers with your parents.
Man.
You got 30 Christmases.
Mm-hmm.
You got 30 vacations with, take your
Mm-hmm.
kids 18 before they move out the house. You got 10 vacations with your children.
All right.
And so when you talk about do you value time or money, it's like you can chase the bag.
Right.
And just remember, you got 50 summers with your parents. You got you're you're boldly living life like you have time. And you don't know. You don't know
Man.
how much time you have. And so
Life is not promised.
it does. I mean, I know a lot of times I talk to you and you'll say like, oh, I gotta go back home. I'm like, go back home. You don't know how many more times you get gonna be able to do that.
And that's true because my family, they be I be like, man, it's cold.
Yeah.
It's cold. Like it's literally the snow is cold.
Yeah.
Literally. But you're right. And I think that, to the point of, a lot like even though I was really distracted in 2023, there were moments of extreme clarity that I got in being that distracted.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I know the power of life insurance now,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've had my license for the last 4 years in real estate. I've
Mm-hmm.
had it.
Mm-hmm.
In getting those IT certs, I spent money to acquire that information.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, this is how you run meetings better.
Yeah.
Or this is how you manage a team of X amount of people. I learned all of that.
And I think that's why they say fail fast, fail forward, fail often. Because no matter what you decide, even if right now you're in the
Mm-hmm.
weeds, they still serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like when I would be in the weeds, I learned how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, can you take table 27 some waters?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
start to learn how do I get myself out of that? So you gotta fail at some point. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta be able to be distracted so you know what to say no to next time.
Facts. And also with that too, I've noticed moving with intent. I'm not gonna lie. I had Mr. Jamal, right? The reason I'm name dropping is because him and I spoke for like 3 hours one night. I'm talking about in succession, 3 hours straight,
Mm-hmm.
straight. And I was like, man, this is a conversation.
Yeah.
But what he mentioned was, he said, date with intent.
Yeah.
Live your life with intent
Mm-hmm.
in all
What does
things.
that mean though? Because I think a lot of people believe that they are living intentional.
I think it's moving with purpose. Like, so for example, if we're saying, okay, why am I choosing to make these cold calls? And I could be defining the word intent or intentional. It all depends on how you define the word. But I think for me, it was like when, in terms of thinking about intent, I believe it is moving with purpose.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, okay, if you're picking up the phone and you're making, let's say, 20 plus dials, the purpose of that is because one, I need to do the outreach, but then two, because I need to get in contact with other people, and then three, because that is how it's a form of procuring business, of going and getting the business. But I just gave you three reasons as to why this is purposeful for me.
Somebody once told me, he said, you're either going to be a wandering generality or
Mm-hmm.
meaningful specific.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times when we talk about intention, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people are allowing life to happen to them versus happening to
Mm.
life, like getting proactive. And so, like you said, with making calls,
Mm-hmm.
people getting in real estate. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I posted a reel. Why didn't I get any business?
That's
Nobody's
the
calling me. And it's like, oh man, okay, but you're waiting for it to happen to you. You're waiting for somebody to call you. You're waiting for most people are not gonna call anybody.
and then to the point, right? So the dictionary definition of intent is something that is planned, proposed, or intended. Purpose. It leads to, or it's a form, the act or fact of intending as to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
in
so you
moving,
said plan, proposed.
yeah, intent or not, of course, you're not going to define the word, but intended, purpose, design, intention, right? And then if you dig deeper, the definition of purpose, the reason for which something exists or is done, made, used, as intended or desired.
So I'm designing something for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
for a specific desire,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that goes back to the plan, right? So when we talk about manifestations
Mm-hmm.
and affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
like that is great, but what is your plan that you have designed to achieve this objective,
Facts.
right? So it goes back to like, I know we live in a lot of technology, but it really goes back to that. What are you writing down?
For example, if someone was to ask me, how do I unclutter my mind? I'd personally probably tell you to start journaling.
Yeah,
I would tell you to start writing, like actually start writing
with your hand.
with your hand, pen and paper. Because the thing is that you're sitting there and you're like, if I was saying, man, I'm really clutter minded right now, I would choose to write because now I'm sitting and actively writing down my thoughts or
Mm,
what is it that I'm actually feeling. And then over time, you might notice that I have now become more aware or
yeah.
self awareness is now, being built at a very high level because I'm writing down why I feel this way.
And you start to see patterns. I think life is
And
about
that's key.
patterns. And so you're like, man, I keep
That's
writing
key.
about this.
And with that too, it's like you notice, okay, what is it that I need to then work on? You good? You all right?
I need some water. It's okay.
I feel like I looked around. I'm like,
Listen,
dang.
the next podcast, we'll both have
We'll
water.
both have some refreshments. Are you you good?
I'm like, oh my god. What? No, I'm like,
You all right?
yeah, we're good.
Are you sure? I just feel
No,
like
we were talking, and I guess we're talking for an hour. So, amen. We know we'll need water next time. We'll be more intentional. We'll be more intentional about our plan.
of
And
staying hydrated.
we will design a setup that has water. And yet, but that, I just think that's a great example right there,
Is
right? Right?
it? I mean, it's a point to your
But you
point. To
gotta
your point,
you gotta
yeah.
fail forward and fail often on it. Come
Fell
on.
off there. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, my good sir. Here you go. You good? You look.
Thank you.
You
There's
know.
water in this cup.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Don't get it confused. It's water. It's hydration. H2O.
Thank you.
For real. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So
Shout out to our producer.
you know what I'm saying? I feel like this world is something that we are capable of going out and achieving such great things at a very high level.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is it's easy to become so bogged down by the limitations of others.
Your guy, Alex Hermosi, I saw him
I'm
make
not
a
gonna lie, he be man. Alex Ramosi be dropping gems. I'm gonna meet him
he
soon.
be
I'm gonna
on
meet
it.
him very soon. I'm gonna
I
meet him
saw
soon.
him write something, and he said it takes 20 hours of focus to get what you want. Most people spend a decade working on the first hour.
Mm, mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like
mm,
the plan is there. You
mm-hmm,
hell, maybe you even wrote the plan, right?
mm-hmm.
Now you're just looking at it. Now it's just hanging up on your window.
Now
But
you just need to follow the plan.
it'll take you 10 years to get
Mm-hmm.
to that first hour. And that's why most people fail.
And it goes back to how do you define fail? First attempt. Wait. First initial attempt in learning. Like it's like it depends on how you choose to define these words.
The first attempt is a lesson.
The first attempt is a lesson. I think that's clean too.
I mean, I just came up with it, but it sounds
And like, it just to your point, fail often, fail fast, fail forward.
yeah.
Because it's like because I've looked to do IT, I've moved to different states for IT. For what? Money, for income, for bread. Not gonna lie. And I've done it twice. Not
Yeah.
once, but twice, right? I've gone overseas, yes, to experience a deployment, but it was for money. I did it for income, right? And it was like I've gained all this life experience, but
Yes.
now it's also like, okay, you understand that or you believe that business is going to be the way for you to live the life you want.
Yeah.
What then needs to happen? You
And,
start asking yourself questions to then receive better answers.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think it's important to talk about that, especially like when you're talking about entrepreneurship, being self-employed. This stuff is hard.
It's not
You know,
supposed to be easy though.
it's not supposed to easy,
Right.
but this stuff is hard.
Mhm.
Like you talk about like because life does not care if you are an entrepreneur.
At all. Like, oh
You know what
man,
I'm saying?
I'm gonna
Like
build my own business, and then you think I got 10
street corner.
clients now. Like it, even if you had 10 clients, are you gonna close
When
all
I
10 of them?
when I get my bill statements, it doesn't say entrepreneur aspect asterisk underneath the whatever it is that they're asking me for,
Mhm.
right? So there will be times where you gotta say, okay, I'm gonna do this to stack capital, stack bread,
Of
do whatever you
course.
need. And I think that we have to also give acknowledgement, like that is okay.
It is. It
It
is
serves
okay.
a
Like
purpose.
in due time, I'll tell you the various things that I have done to earn money, legal, ethical, and moral. Though let's throw that out there. But but it's for real because I had to specify. I've had to specify.
Don't get no ideas and say T Craig. T Craig told me to get the bag no matter what.
No, no,
Ah,
no,
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 no, no,
no,
no. He
no,
doesn't
no,
say
no,
that.
no, no. We didn't say that. We
Mm-mm.
didn't say that. I think it's the what are you willing to do to then become all that you need to be?
Yeah,
And then what does that look like at
yeah,
its highest, at its highest and best form?
yeah. And I
You
think
know,
that's just an honest question, and not like your scripted interview answer. Like for
no,
real.
like
Like if you know, like, hey, I don't want to call people.
know yourself. Then ask
What are you
yourself,
gonna do?
what are you gonna do to make money?
Right? And I sometimes I have the conversations with people because it's like all day you're like, I don't like people, I hate people, I don't like what's something that you don't like is you gotta be an adult. People. I don't like people. And then you
Mhm.
get in real estate and you're like, well, I just want to help people. You just say you don't like
You don't
people.
like, you gotta do what you gotta do.
So if you don't like people, something's gotta change. Your perspective or your industry.
Mm,
You're gonna need to do something where you don't have to either interact with people or you're gonna have to get better at liking people and
hmm
figure out what that's about. And that goes back to again, isolation, right?
hmm
We just came out of a period first time in my life where people were isolated. And a lot of us, me included, have gotten conditioned to that. And so it's like unlearning the things, the bad habits that you picked up during the pandemic. When you stopped going out, you stopped talking to people, you stopped hanging out with
And
people.
I think it goes back to, as you said, experiences. Because I'm not gonna lie, I was traveling
You were traveling
a lot.
during the pandemic, but you was in
Yes.
the military.
Mm-mm.
No, you
I was
just
on person.
you.
every weekend, every weekend, I was like, "Where am I flying to? Where am I flying to today?"
Mhm.
But it was because, and I think, and it goes back to experiences because I was like, I'm on salary. Hey, as long as I perform well Monday through Friday, check still gonna hit. I'm still gonna travel. When it hits 4:30 p.m., I'm traveling.
Yeah,
And it's like, wow, yeah, this is how you want to live your life. It goes back to imagine how much money I could have stacked by not traveling as much. That is a truth. That is a that's a God honest reality.
yeah.
That I was in control of not only how much money I was making, but the capacity to then save and invest. And that's why I think to me right now, I speak with such conviction to
Yeah.
people who are in tech, to people who are nurses, doctors, lawyers, CPA, accountants, because I was one of those people getting consistent money and just like, I'm gonna live my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, what if you're able to then purchase real estate or pursue an industry that allows you to then live life on your own
It's
terms?
about funding your perfect assets and letting funding your perfect life and letting your assets fund your liabilities. And so it's nothing wrong with traveling. It's
Mm.
about finding a better way to travel and getting other people to pay for it.
So I got a question for you, right? If there was one thing you could tell people who are on the fence about real estate,
And
what would you tell them?
you have to cross the sands. It's never going to be easy. Real estate will never be easy. There will never be a perfect moment where you're going to look up and say, now I'm ready. You're not going to be ready. I don't care how much money you have. It's going to be something for you to object. It's going to be something for you to complain about, something that's going to piss you off.
Hmm
Like, let's keep it above.
hmm
The one thing that I would say is do it now
hmm
because it's not going to get easier. And
hmm
if a crash does happen, like a lot of you guys talk about,
hmm
the whole world's going to crash, not
hmm
just real estate. So that
hmm
means that your income is going to be different. Your job may be in jeopardy.
hmm
Your family may be at risk. So my advice is that wherever you are, do it now. Find the best buy for your budget and do it now because you got to think bigger and you got to think forward. You just said if I would have done something different during the pandemic, all that traveling I would have been doing, I'd have at least bought an asset. Okay, so
For
you just
real.
heard him say it. You just heard me say it. Stop wasting time.
And I think it's important to really sit in that. I really believe it's important to really sit in that and understand what type of life do you want to live and what do we need to do to then get there.
Stop wasting time.
And with that, T. Craig, appreciate your time and attention today. Go be great.
Awesome. Y'all have a good day.